Hey everyone, it's the Autistic Scyther here, and this is part 2 of my 35th birthday special. Alright, if you're looking for part 1, it's up on my channel now, so I just suggest you watch that video before before watching this video. Granted, I'm kind of dividing it because of certain things, but yeah, in this case, we're taking a look at all the Fakemon that I created. So, this is a continuation of that. So, without that being said, without further ado, let's get back into it. Alright, for those that have seen part 1, that one involved the starters that I created. So, in terms of this one, these are kind of those that I created soon afterwards. Starting off first, are the Route 1 Pokemon, which, yeah, I created them just as kind of a, return to the idea of the early route Pokemon, since Generation 9 did something a little different. Oh, my bad. And, like the regional bird, regional normal type rodent or mammal, and the regional early game bug. So, honestly, in terms of the regional bird, since Generation 9 did go a little different with their early game stuff, so yeah. That being said, with the regional bird, I wanted to do something a little different, and considering I looked up stuff up and I went with those like a hummingbird or a shrike Pokemon for past regions I created, I decided to go a little different. So, in looking up the animals and birds that could be found in the southern United States, I discovered that the loon could actually be found in certain states. More specifically, the state of Louisiana. And honestly, this gave me an idea to make a loon Pokemon, which led me to create Wayloon, which, yes, is called the tiny loon Pokemon. And while it's kind of pure flying type, since its ability Haunting Cry allows it to flinch an opponent when it attacks with a flying type move, well, in this case, it's kind of obvious since its hidden ability is Wind Rider. And I decided since every loon Pokemon, since if anyone's ever heard a loon or a loon's call, they notice it sounds almost haunting or ethereal, like a ghost. So I decided to utilize a more mystical aspect with my loon Pokemon. Hence why Wayloon is pure flying. However, that being said, in its evolved form, that's where I came up with creating Daisaloon, since it's kind of a flying since I decided to make it a flying psychic type to fit that aspect. And oddly enough, it's kind of interesting as considering it stares like so much, like it often stares into space at nothing to the point that it could put any person in a trance that just stops and watches it as they look at as they're wondering what exactly they're looking at. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. The fact that I made it psychic type instead of ghost, like flying ghost, I decided to do something a little, well, different. But I did give it 2 new moves, like Psy Break, which is like a powerful psychic type Brick Break version of Brick Break. And Astro Beak basically just kinda is a ghost type attack that either ghost or it's like a ghost or psychic type attack that, well, more or less has the ability to bypass screens. Screens, because it's like astral projection. But either way, I mean, it's kind of a weird one. Also, for those that are wondering what the stuff on its head is, those are supposed to be feathers, but I was thinking of making it kind of like brain looking, like since it is called the Genius Loon Pokemon. But I don't know if it would have worked as well as the feather aspect would have done. I don't exactly know. I mean, just alright. Now, next one. Honestly, this is that's actually one of my favorite, and it's Larvitalence. Since I knew for a Fakemon region based on the southern based on the southern US, I knew we would have a Weevil Pokemon, like a Boll Weevil Pokemon. So that's why I essentially created Larvitalence, and honestly, I think it's one of the cutest designs I ever looked. Especially with the fact it's wearing a half-eaten leaf as like a bib. Kind of like since it's a weevil larvae. And the leaf, and since it's born on like a leaf, it basically looks like it's wearing like a half-eaten leaf as a baby bib, which is just so adorable. And kind of fits more. Kind of like how Sawaddle wears a leaf as like a baby bonnet, when you think about it. And as such, it kind of evolves into like Gormeval, which is kind of like it's just a chonky boy. It's just a chonky boy. I mean, it's a Weevil pupa that and it wears it has a part of its body like a napkin that kind of acts like a napkin. Hence the parts of leaves that it wears and its content expression like it's happy just eating. I mean, it has the ability Hidden Treat, which is kind of like the move Stuffed Cheeks as like an ability. But either way, I decided to create like a Pokemon that like has a predator-prey relationship with another one. Hence why I mentioned it finds a place near cottony nests until the point of evolution. Like, it actually eats cottony, so, which, considering it's based on a Boll Weevil, of course it would more or less, kind of find itself drawn to hunt down and eat, like, the Cotton Ball Pokemon. And then there's Anthrobradius, which, granted, I created this after Low-Kicks was revealed in Scarlet and Violet, since, again, I knew I wanted a bug-type Weevil Pokemon, but yeah, it's basically a bug dark type, almost like it spends so much of its time eating that it becomes like a pest. And the next thing you think about is it's basically 400 pounds, while only like around 3.3 feet 5 inches. So it's a chunky boy. I mean, and the reason why I made it like this is because it's kind of based on the idea of a person named Diamond Jim Brady, who was largely known for having a very healthy appetite. And honestly, it's kind of awesome when you think about it. And additionally, if you notice the piece of cotton it has in its hand, it basically is like it ripped off a piece of like Whimsicott or the cotton from a Whimsicott or Eldegoss, and since it's known to eat them, and well, it's like it's holding it onto it like a snack to go. And additionally, it has to move large feast, which is like I haven't figured this out, but it's like a normal or dark type version of Leech Life. I haven't really figured out what type it was gonna be, but please, if you know of what type of it should be, let me know in the comments whether it's normal or dark. I mean, either way, it might work. Next up, and yeah, I know I actually decided to try my hand at a possum Pokemon because out of all sorts of Pokemon, one animal that I've wanted Game Freak to add to a Pokemon game was a Pokemon based on a possum. Of course, they haven't done so yet, and we don't know if they would, but I actually created a Pokemon based on a Virginia possum. I mean, it's called Somniopossum since they're known for being I'm not sure if they're nocturnal, but the fact it's normal psychic says a lot. I originally wanted it to be like part. I knew I wanted it to be part ghost, but I didn't want the first farm to be part ghost since I wanted it to fit the whole early route normal type rodent or mammal. So basically, that's why I made it normal psychic because, well, but since opossums are known for like playing possum or playing dead in order to escape from like predators, that explains what I did with my the evolution Mortsupial, which is called a Requiem Pokemon, but let's just be real. I basically decided to have it kind of based somewhat on like I guess I'd say the Nightmare Before Christmas, considering its eyes and stitched mouth kind of makes it look like Jack Skellington. Plus, I decided to add more elements of like a zombie opossum, hence why it has like, well, bone spines on its back and like a protruding rib cage from its back and a bony tail. So I mean, it's kind of crazy, but it's kind of fun to say the least. Plus it has a move called Phantasm Fist, which is kind of like a ghost type variant of like, I guess I'd say Psyshock, that does like special, that's like physical move but does special damage. So yeah. Plus it's, as its Pokedex entry mentions, which I'm not sure if anyone can read it, but which with that I apologize because I tried to fit so much energy, this sort of stuff ends up happening. Mentions if you do spot it at night, it's rumored to be an omen to the point that if someone close to you will die. Yeah, and yeah, it's basically kind of like the a mammalian version of the Irish myth of the Banshee, where like if you hear a scream from the Banshee, it's like someone very close to you will die in a matter of minutes or a matter of hours. So yeah. That wasn't the only thing I created, because I ended up deciding to create a few regional variants, which, honestly, these were kind of interesting to say the least, and it was kind of fun looking at different things and finding ways to make these regional variants my own. I mean, starting off first, I wanted to create like a regional variant of Durant, because we haven't had like a fire ant Pokemon or a bullet ant Pokemon, so honestly, in terms of it, I did create like a bullet ant Pokemon in a previous southern United States based Pokemon region or Fakemon region that I called Bullet Blaze. That was also like Bug Fire. So yeah, this is kind of the I guess I'd say this is the evolution of Bullet Blaze. But either way, I decided to kind of make this as a sort of a way, because it's almost like these Durant have fought back against Heatmore. So basically, they kind of know how to handle Heatmore better than their Univin forms. Speaking of which, yeah, I had to do something with Heatmore. And yeah, I know it's possibly not unheard of to have it keep a type, but add a secondary type. But I'm decided to make this version of Heatmore Fire Poison. Like, in this case, Univin Heatmore, in this case, it would be like Univin Heatmore were brought over to like the region to Antaria in order to eat the Durant. However, they were more or less kind of attacked by they were able to fight back so much and attacking their their undersides to the point that you were like, nope, not dealing with that, I'm searching for something else to eat. And well, eventually they decided to essentially realize, hey, maybe we could eat the exhaust inside Varoom and Revavroom. So hence why their tongue and their its tongue and tail are kind of like gas siphons, like fuel siphons. Because my thought process was like, what if a Heatmore ate a car, or ate a car motor? And that's where I got with it. I mean, it's kind of the craziest one, but it's something. Alright. Next, yeah. Durant and Heatmore weren't the only ones I created, because I created a regional variant of Shelmet. And as you can already know, it's based on an apple snail, which exists in the Everglades. I've never seen one in person, but I actually remembered seeing an episode of the Wild Thornberries that had apple snails in it, so yeah. Additionally, I kind of gave it a move called Chloroseed, since it's a move that essentially can cause an opponent to fall asleep. So it's like a more, dare I say, like a more accurate version of sleep powder. And yeah, this time, it's kind of something that I decided to make it that maybe make a Shelmet that Carablast won't be able to prey on or take its shell, so that's why I decided to have them like live in like a fallen apple Alright, wear armor based on a fallen apple. Of course, I had to give it another predator, so that's why I say in this case, the Shellman in Antaria would be seen as easy prey by Bombardier. Which, honestly, I'm not sure if it would be able to, but honestly, it kind of fits, since going back to the Wild Thornberries episode that I saw, they had like a kite that would go after the apple snail, so, on the Comfy, so that's why. Speaking of which, I actually gave it a brand new move called Samaringo. And it's basically an apple samurai. And I don't know why, but the fact that I actually made it kind of makes sense. And I mean, since Excelgor is a ninja and Escavalier is a knight, I decided, why not make a samurai Pokemon? Hence why it has like a matchstick apple slice as like a sword. I don't know why I did that, but it actually looks pretty cool. Plus it has a rivalry with Gallade, so there's that. But speaking of which, didn't think I wouldn't give Carablast anything. And yeah, I decided to give it an evolution in Coleoptiles. Which, yeah. For those that haven't noticed, its hidden ability is called Labor Gains. Yeah, it's based on the labors of Hercules. Which, in this case, it's kind of like a variant of stamina that raises a attack every turn. Don't know why I made it I think I decided to, I don't know why I made that, but I was thinking, hey, we haven't had a Hercules Beetle Pokemon. Why not go the whole 9 yards? You know, now that I think about it, it kind of looks a little goofy. I don't know what you guys think, but I'd like to hear your opinion of this, because it kind of looks pretty cool. Yeah, and the next one I actually created is Corphish. Like an Antarian regional Corphish. Yeah, I know with Pokemon Winds and Waves, we might possibly at some point get like a, maybe a regional Corphish, where like, this region might be the region that Corphish come from. However, this was before Winds and Waves got introduced, so I decided, why not make a Pokemon called variant of Corphish that's like based on a crawdad, like a crawfish or crawdad. Hence why I decided to make it the Mudbug Pokemon, because a lot of people in the South, especially in New Orleans, Louisiana, call crawdads mudbugs. Hence, and yeah, that's where I decided to make it water ground, since honestly I decided, hey, if it's called the Mudbug Pokemon, then it makes sense to make it water ground. As such, I kinda made an ability, kinda gave it a regional variant evolution called Nephrobster, which, yeah, in this case, Quarterfish and the Frobster are kind of laid back and docile, but they're very powerful when you think about it. Kind of like, hence why it's, hence why the red strap on its claws of course, the red strap on its claws kind of makes it look like, kind of looks like the rubber bands that you find on lobsters that you buy at like a seafood restaurant, like Red Lobster, or like a supermarket that they have on their claws to prevent them from snapping at you or pinching you. Also, if you're wondering about the ability Fantail, it's kind of an ability I created before. I don't remember what I said for it, but it's kind of... I actually created Fantail because I think it raised speed when it got hit with a water type attack. I don't remember, but it was my idea was okay, if you're facing off against a water Pokemon, you could switch into Nefropster and it would you could switch Nefropster into a water type attack and it would get in a significant speed buff. So yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if that would work, but yeah, it was still in my mind after the last time I made it, so yeah, there's that. Yeah, next one, I actually created Pokemon based on things from the state of Georgia, and yeah, honestly, we start this one off with a Pokemon based on a bed bug. I don't know why, but I was looking up stuff about Georgia and it said there's an area of Georgia that is known for having an infestation of bed bugs. So I decided, why not create a Pokemon that's based on a bed bug wrapped in a colorful quilt of sorts. And yeah, if you're wondering why it's this way, it's because I also was planning on creating I guess I'd say a pre-evolution. I mean, I have yet to figure out a pre-evolution of Simnos, but if you want to see that, just let me know and I'll find a way to create it. It might take me some time to do so, because I have yet to figure out what I want to do with this. And yeah. Oh yeah, I actually created a regional I guess I'd say plant waifu based on cabbage. I mean, I knew I wanted a regional plant waifu, but I didn't know when it would be made, but I didn't think I would essentially choose cabbage, but I looked it up and I noticed that Georgia's also known for having a Cabbage Patch Kids nursery. So, long story short, I decided to create a cabbage Pokemon that was evolved into a pageant queen of sorts. Since, it's kind of a reference Cabbage Patch Kids dolls, and beauty pageants, and oddly enough, toddlers and tiaras. Yeah, I don't know why I did that, but I would every time I thought of stuff, yeah, my thought process added to it, and well, while Cab Baby just looks like a person in a cabbage, I don't know why. That pageant kind of made me think of like that pageant is kind of. I decided to kind of make it look like a toddlers and tiaras. There's like a toddlers and tiaras contestant. Plus, this last part is. Yeah. This is where the. This is where the whole. Yeah. Overwhelming. Ability to put things on a single page came to bite me in the butt. But this is the best thing I decided to try. And then honestly, in terms of it, Brassic Queen is kind of a weird one because she kind of looks like a beauty queen that's like past her prime, but still believes she's like completely and utterly beautiful, which is odd. I mean, granted, in all fairness, she kind of looks a lot like a grass type version of Jinx, which I know it's not much, but it's kind of like an ugly baby. I mean, they're ugly to anyone, but they're ugly to anyone that sees them. But they're your ugly baby. And yeah, this is my ugly baby. So yeah. I mean, I knew I wanted like a grass type or fairy type, so yeah. Oh yeah. This one was another one that I wanted, but I didn't know how to put it. But I knew I wanted a peanut Pokemon since, well, the first uses of peanuts and the invention of peanut butter were invented by George Washington Carver. So I knew I wanted some way to essentially like make this into a Pokemon, and I ended up creating Gooblast. I mean, now that I think about it, giving it a name that's a combination of the words goober, like another word for a peanut, and blast is weird, but kind of fits when you think about it. Plus, I decided to make it poison dark since, well, there are many people out there who have a peanut allergy, so I decided to give people with peanut allergies some love. Plus, it has a move called Sticky Tar, which is like I guess I'd say a poison type variant of moves like Spiderweb or I guess Mean Look. So, yeah. Yeah. Pupatama. What can I say about Pupatama? Well, I was thinking, I knew I was gonna make like a regional dog or a regional cat. Regional dog. I wasn't officially going to make like a regional cat, but heads up, it led into the creation of a regional cat Pokemon. But if you hadn't guessed, we never had a bulldog Pokemon. I know that we have like Snubbull and Granbull now, but we never really had like a full on bulldog Pokemon. So, I mean, we could have gotten one in for the Galar fire type or somewhere in Galar, since, well, could have referenced like the English bulldog, but in this case, I decided that for Puppetama, I decided to not only is it kind of based on the surprising amount of Buddhists in Atlanta, Georgia, but it's also kind of based on the it's based on the mascot of the University of Georgia, Uga, who is a bulldog. So hence why it's pure psychic. However, it does become psychic fighting when it evolves into Bhairavaga, so yeah. Plus, since Puppetama has kind of like a rivalry with a rivalry of sorts with Esper, kind of like how cats and dogs are sometimes seen to not get along. Bhairavaga, the fact that I decided to give it like a third eye. Honestly, now that I think about it, I don't know why I created it. But I also created like an enlightened. But its signature move, Enlightened Fist, is kind of like a special variant of the move Power Up Punch, where it raises its special attack like every time it connects with an attack. So, yeah. And then came the cat Pokemon, the regional cat, Bakesher, which I decided, why not create a Pokemon that's kind of like a rival to Bhairavaga? And hence why I created Bakesher, which kind of makes it interesting since I decided to have it based on like a combination of a Bakaneko, like the Bakaneko from Japanese folklore, mixed with the Cheshire Cat from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, considering how it's always smiling. But the Cheshire Cat, but its Pokedex entry and its hidden ability is where the Cheshire Cat influence comes to mind, since the Cheshire Cat is known to disappear into the shadows, leaving only behind his eyes and smile. So that's why it's there. So yeah. I also created a few ghost-type Pokemon, but at this point I might take a look at like 2. Because, well, one of them's a type that we have never had in a while. So, yeah. Of course, kind of started off by creating Bootbound, because I knew I was going to want a ghost and rock type, which we have never had, since we haven't had at all. I mean, I know we have like Runerigus or Galarian Corsola or Grievard and Houndstone, but they should have been Ghost and Rock instead of the types that they had. So it was a missed opportunity. So either way, I decided to create like a Boot Hill Grave Pokemon. I mean, it's basically a Boot Hill Grave, but it also throws rocks at opponents or passers-by in order for it to hunt, in an effort to hunt and drain their prey of its energy. So that's why it's there. And this leads us to my second Pokemon, Mazola Race, which, while It's a ghost and rock type. I decided to call it the Spirit Tomb Pokemon. Plus, it actually has like a ghost type one-hit KO move and Fatal Collapse. Because it's kind of based on like what would happen if like a statue or a headstone fell on a person and instantly killed them. So that's why I decided to give it that move. Plus, I also decided to give it a symbiote, as I mentioned in the Pokedex entry, has a symbiotic relationship with Mandibuzz. Again, I was considering making like a regional variant of Mandibuzz, but I think I might save that for later, so let me know in the comments if you want to see a regional variant of Mandibuzz in the near future. Plus, again, it's a heavy boy, because it's a mausoleum statue, so yeah. This will be continued in part 3.